Something that I asked you about on the radio today, the protocols of baseball. Truly, through 9 innings, no one mentioned anything to you about the no-hitter.
No, I mean, because you don't really know it's a no-hitter until, 5th inning. You're looking out and you look up at the scoreboard and you notice they don't have any hits, and you don't really think it's a big deal because you're too far away from anything happening, and yet there's a subtle change in the stadium. You notice that the fans are cheering on every strike. They're booing on every ball. On every out, there's a little bit louder ovation. And when you come back between innings, my buddies, my fellow pitchers on the team, Jimmy Key and Scott Kamenicki, we were sharing a lighthearted moment for the first 5 innings of the game, and as I come back, they're a foot away. The 7th inning, they're 2 feet away. 8th inning, they're 3 feet away, and nobody's talking. And baseball has a lot of stupid superstitions.
And you would come back and you would stack a cup at the end of every inning. Where are you sitting, by the way? Which end of the dugout were you in? Did you have a place where you always would retreat?
Well, it was the first base side in Yankee Stadium, and I always sat next to the trainers, next to the water coolers and the medical training kit. Maybe there's some symbolism there, but and I had these silly little routines. I like to kind of mark each inning as a successful inning. So I would take a sip of Gatorade or water, whatever it was, and then stack the cup upside down on the back of the bench. And so for every stacked cup, that was 1 inning of success. And my goal was to stack 9 cups that day.
In the 9th inning, Kenny Lofton, who you mentioned, tries to lay down a bunt. It trickles foul, but it raises the question of how over the years competitors tried to take advantage of your situation. In the book you make reference to, was it Little League or was it high school, but an episode where the coach sends the first several players up and instructs them to bunt. What's that story?
Well, first of all, that was the venue that I chose to be in. So if there was a perceived weakness, I worked hard not to let that be a weakness anymore. I knew that I'd have to field my position pretty well. In Little League, one of the first Little League games I ever pitched, the opposing coach ordered his players to bunt 6 times in a row. 6 straight batters bunted the ball straight back at me to see if I could field a simple ground ball and throw it to first. 6 batters, 2 innings. I threw every one of those girls out. They weren't girls, I promise. But that was always going to be the case, and I knew that, Michael. I mean, sports was where I wanted to be, and I didn't expect anything less. If someone saw a weakness in my game, I expected them to exploit it, just as the same as if I saw a weakness in theirs. And Kenny Lofton tried to bunt in the 9th inning of that game. I in no way took that or interpreted that as an effort to exploit my fielding ability. I thought that was a big part of his game. I think he was legitimately trying to get on base. Had I lost a no-hitter on a 35-foot bunt, I would have been disappointed. There's no question about it. But I don't think he was trying to exploit what he thought was a weakness.
Did opposing teams in the MLB also try and read the way that you were gripping the ball?
A little bit. There was that. It's a ruthless world. Major League Baseball, guys are trying anything and everything to be successful. And I had to hide pitches not in my glove like most pitchers. I had to hide the ball behind my glove like this, which hid the ball from batters, but it didn't hide the ball from the first and third base coaches. So a couple times in my career, a couple teammates of mine would say, hey, the first base coach is bending down and putting his hands on his knees every time you throw a breaking ball, and he's standing straight up every time you're throwing a fastball. And there's ways to deal with that in baseball. But you just create a little bit of uncertainty in the batter's minds the next time.
Rich Troyan is in the audience, and he asks, what in your Major League Baseball career were the most positive and most negative experiences both on and off the field?
That's a great question. I think the most positive experiences was just to wear a major league uniform and just to play on a field like this, you know, where the mounds are pristine and the lawn is mowed beautifully, and I never took that for granted. Every time you walked into Fenway Park hours before the fans showed up and you ran out in the outfield, or I went to the old Tiger Stadium where I grew up and which was Major League Baseball to me as a kid, to be out there playing a game that I loved was the most positive experience in the world. And the fact that they paid you to do it was absolutely incredible. And I think the most negative experience I had was the fact that success on those fields meant so much to me that sometimes the pursuit of that success blinded what was going. It blinded my appreciation for being on this field, for being on that mound, and for playing a game. Sometimes I forgot that it was a game. I made too much of it. I made too much of needing success instead of enjoying it and just appreciating what a fine opportunity it is.
Marge Jackson is in the crowd tonight. She says, your book is amazing. Do any of your speaking engagements at schools deal with the subject of bullying?
You know, I've been asked a lot about bullying. I wish I was an expert, but I can tell you in my own life that I was teased as a kid. Obviously, when you're different, kids are going to look for the weakness. They're going to look for something that makes you a little bit different from the other kids. And I heard every name in the book when I was growing up. You know, your hand looks like a foot. I only have a little bit of my middle finger, and people used to say, you know, you're giving everybody the finger all the time. When I wore my metal prosthesis, they called me Captain Hook and every name under the sun. And it's tough, you know, I realize that. And sports helped me to fit in. You know, if there was teasing going on in a classroom, I couldn't wait for recess to start because I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to go out there and play football or go play basketball and prove myself. And so that's what I try to tell kids is that find something that you love to do. It doesn't have to be baseball. It doesn't have to be sports. But find something that you can pour your passion and your energy into, that you can divert just a little bit of what somebody else's opinion of you might be. Because really that's ultimately what it is, the power that we allow somebody else over us. And I know that's a very mature way of thinking for young kids, but that's what I try to tell them. You know, never let somebody else's opinion define how you feel about yourself.